Okay, welcome back to the Sewing Room of Garner. Okay, so on today's tutorial, I'm going to be walking you through how to make the biased binding. Okay, so what we did is we cut our strips and we did them at 1 1/4 inches. This will give you a pretty good wide bias tape, which is what I recommend for beginners because you don't want to try to sew on a very narrow, tiny 1/2 inch or something like that. So it gives you just a little bit more than a 1/2 inch when you do 1 1/4 when you fold it, okay? So remember how I said yesterday we're going to crisscross it and it's going to be pretty sides touching, okay? And how we cut it, it automatically gave us these angles. And if these angles line up just like that, then you have what I consider your T or your cross, okay? It looks like it's an X almost, but then it's flush on here, so it's like a big triangle, okay? That's what we're looking for to get a nice even bias tape. So I'm gonna actually take my pen and put it right, okay, there we go, hold it like that, and I'm just gonna hold it on this side. I'm just gonna hold it right there. See that? I just readjusted it so that when I start sewing, I don't have to take my pin out the way. So another trick is I like to have a piece of washi tape on my machine, okay? And with the washi tape, it doesn't matter what the dimension is, pretty much. Well, not really. I say 5/8 is really good right with this measurement here. Just because I can literally like line it up against here and it's perfect. Okay, but you can move your washi tape if you want to. I have mine set at 5/8 because that's the same allowance for the entire garment. So instead of me having to move it around, I'm just okay. So now I'm doing is getting it right on where both pieces meet, like right in that center junction, right there. Okay, and then I'm going to do just straight stitch all the way down from one side to the other. I'll take mine out because it's affecting my feet dogs. Okay, and you sew off just a little bit. Always raise your needle when you're taking your fabric off, even if it's not in the way. Okay, and I'm going to show you what this does. So you see how now that's what it looks like. This is still straight, and then when you go to open it, it's all one piece. See that? So that's what that's going to do there. And I'm going to go ahead and press it. I'm going to take all my pieces off my pressing board for just a second. And I'm going to go ahead and press that. Okay? Now this is a satin. This is a polyester satin. So I want to make sure that I do some kind of cloth to get over it so I don't burn your fabric, okay? Nice and pressed. Okay, so that's pressed. And then you just take yourself a pair of scissors and you just clip off the excess, okay? It's really this easy to make your own bias tape, and it's not any more fabric than what you would have used for your peplum anyway. It was all in there, okay? So don't worry about that. That's going to be, I can cut that off actually right now. There we go. So the next thing we want to do with our bias binding is we want to fold it in half. Okay, I'm going to fold it in half. Okay, and then you're going to iron it. Now, I have tested my fabric, so I know it's not going to burn instantaneously. This is not a cheap polyester. This is a good sturdy polyester, so it's not going to burn up on me when I'm using it without the 100% cotton, because I'm not keeping it on very long. Just line up those two edges and then press it. And I have mine on a synthetic setting, so it's barely on right now. Okay, so go on and do that for all of your pieces. I have 3 in total. I've got 2 for my armholes and then 1 for my neckline. The one for the neckline is a little bit longer. Now you can always get the store-bought, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just personally like to use what I'm going to use in I like to use what I'm going to use on my fabric anyway, because I have it. So if not, it's just going to go in a pile and a scrap pile, saying, okay, I could do something with this later, kind of thing. And then I never get to it, and the scrap pile ends up getting bigger and bigger and bigger, until finally one day I go through it. But this is so much easier. So there's my bias binding. So with my bias binding, I go ahead and I make all of them the same way. So I take the other 2 pieces that I've already done the same for, and I'll do the same thing to both of those. Okay? Now, moving on to the next part of what I told you what we're going to go through today. So the next thing is we're going to work with our darts. Okay? So let me get my fabric. Okay, we're going to be working with our darts. Okay, this is the front piece, and this is the back pieces. Okay. Okay, and here are our darts. I'm going to show you how we make these darts. Okay, and how we are going to do these, reinforcing the neck lines. Okay, this here is actually like step 1 and maybe 2 on the directions right here. This is, we're going right into the directions now. The bias tape was just an extra bonus. Here is actually what the directions say to go ahead and stay stitch these neck holes. Okay, so take that, put that aside. So for our back pieces, here are our darts. Okay, so remember, the dart, you connect your dots, and then you have your dot up at the top, and then you're going to sew from the bottom up. Okay? So what I like to do is go ahead and put my needle down onto the line. Okay? And for you, it's going to be different. For me, I just kind of use my presser foot as a guide. I know where it is that I have to do a straight line, and just sew right on that line that you had marked. Okay, and you're going to run out of fabric here in a second. You're just going to continue to sew until you sew off of it. So I literally sewed off. I pulled it out, cut my fabric. Okay, take your pins out. I'm going to use this pin here because sometimes the thread continues to kind of loop. And so all I'm doing is detaching my 2 pieces right here. Okay, so you can see that. So it's 2 pieces. Now I'm just going to knot it like you do just a basic knot. I do it 2 times. 2. And then I snip. Okay. Snip off all my extra threads. I like to do cleanup as I go. It just gives me a better product. Okay, so there's our dart. Okay, and it says to press it towards the center back. So this is my center back. It's going to go that way. Okay, get my pad out again, put my cloth on there. For this, I'm really having to dig in and really get in there. I want to go ahead and make sure I put my temperature up a little bit. Good, and press it. Okay. I didn't do as well up here, so I'm going to go ahead and touch that again. Right here. You can kind of smooth it out with your fingers, even through the pressing cloth. Some good steam will help it too. Okay. There we go. So there is our dart. It's pressed towards the center back. So it's pressed that way. You do that with both of your darts, and then I'm going to show you how we're going to do our stay stitching around our necklines. So on the diagram, it tells you to start from your shoulder down to the center neckline. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to go this direction. Now I'm doing this at a 1/2 inch seam allowance, or a 1/4 inch is fine, as long as you don't go past your seam allowance where you have to rip it out later. Okay. On your machine, you're going to want to have the widest stitch length available. Oop, look, I was about to do it wrong. See that? I was about to start with the center back rather than the shoulder seams. I'm going to start at the shoulder seams. I'm going to turn it around, and I'm going to start at my shoulder seam. Okay. It's a good thing I double checked. Nothing wrong would have happened, by the way. Just take it out and redo it. Okay. And you can cut these threads pretty close. It's not like it's a gathering thread where you need to have them for anything. Okay. So that's what it looks like there. So we did from the shoulder down to the neckline. Okay. I'll show you one. I'm going to show you the front piece on how to do this front piece, because the front piece is, you have to do it this way. Okay. Don't skip around and try to do a loop, because it does matter. Okay. So you're going to start from the shoulder, come to the center front, stop, take it off, come from the shoulder to center front and stop. Okay. So I'm going to do that right now. I'll show you how I do that. Okay, take it off, snip, turn it over, start from the shoulder, from the top of the shoulder down. Okay, to the center front. Okay, pull that off, clip, clip, clip. Okay. And here is what it looks like. So coming in to the center, I probably will joss off just a tiny little bit, but that's okay. So once you've done that to all of your pieces, now you can move on to working with your peplum. Okay, so our peplum, here, hold on a second, let me just move this whole thing over. That's what I like about it, I can just slide everything around. Okay, so here's our peplum. Okay, this is peplum front, 6549. Okay, it's also new look D0815. Okay, front on the fold, all my notches are transferred. Okay, remember how we mentioned those notches before? Okay, notches, notches. And then here's the back piece. I want to make sure that before I take it off, I have all my notches marked, which I do. Okay, and see how I keep my pattern piece with my fabric until I'm ready to use it? This helps in knowing what is what. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to open, I'm going to do it your direction rather than my direction so you can see this. Now I'm going to open it up. Okay, so pretty sides are facing up. Okay, so with the peplum, there is a notch on the side. I'm trying to figure out where my notch is. Okay, notch is right there. Okay, if for some reason it's not quite visible, because for some reason mine's not that visible right now, I checked it before I took it off, but just refold it. Replace your fabric down. Fold. Just didn't snip all that well with those pink shears. Sometimes it doesn't quite, it's not as pronounced as it should be. There we go. just went ahead and snipped it a little bit more. Again, you can snip in as long as it's not into the seam allowance, okay? So now I'm going to put pretty sides touching with those side stitches matching those snips. Okay, so over here on this side, this snip is up here and this one's down there. That tells me that is not the right piece for that. This is going to be at our center back. Okay, so here's our notch. It lines up perfectly right there with this notch. I know that this is a side seam for this piece. Okay, it's kind of like Legos. Okay. Match up your pieces. Now I'm going to go ahead and pin both of these because this is a very slippery fabric. This satin is very slippery. It's beautiful, but it's slippery. Okay, and then now I'm going to go on this side. Okay, now on this side, those notches line up again. Okay, so again, I'm going to go ahead and pin. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pin. Now we can go ahead and sew up each of the ends at 5/8 of an inch on both sides. When you do that, you get a peplum that looks like this. Okay, looks just like that. This is what your peplum looks like now. Okay, it's a big, almost like circle. See that? This is the front, this is the back where the zipper is going to be. Okay, so on your peplum, you will need to finish your edge. Okay, it is going to need to be hemmed, and you are going to need to trim down and do an overcast stitch on your peplum. So I'm going to show you that on the next video on how we are going to hem the peplum and how to do an overcast stitch to finish our raw edges. And then we will go ahead and do the construction on the bodice. Okay, so on our bodice, make sure I see, oh, they're over here. Our bodices are over here. Okay, so on our bodices, we have our bodice front, okay, and our bodice back pieces. Keep these together over here. I know, I'm making you dizzy, I'm so sorry. Okay, so here it is again. Pretty sides touching. Okay, we got our shoulder seams. Again, those notches, that's how we're gonna line it up. Okay, line up those notches and pin at the notch. If you can do all of your pinning and prepping before you start sewing, instead of just following the directions exactly, it'll move things along a lot faster. Okay, so right here, I'm going to pin and pin it down here. Now, here is a tip. Do not sew your side seams yet. Okay? Well, wait a minute a second. Yes, you can. Sorry. If you were doing a sleeve, I would say do not put in your do not do your side seams. But I'm going to show you the version with a sleeve and without a sleeve. Now, this pattern does not come with a sleeve option. I just made a ruffle sleeve out of an old pattern that I had that fit my daughter, and I like the look of it. So I'm going to show you how to do two different looks, okay? And it's a gathered sleeve, so it doesn't have to be perfect to this angle because it's gathered, okay? But we'll come back to that. So go ahead and pin at your shoulders and your side seams, okay? And then we're going to sew it all up. Even your side seams have notches that match up, okay? You have side seams that match up. right there together. Okay? It's always a good idea to pin with these fabrics here because they're kind of soft and flowy, and they may just slip on you when you're on the machine. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and sew up those side seams at my 5 1/8 seam allowance. I'm going to just do a couple of them here for you so you can see it on camera, and then I'll come back with it already done and just give you and show you how to put in your bias. Okay. Lower my stitch length. I'm just trimming my threads, okay? So that's what it looks like. So I'm going to come back to you guys on the next video. I'm going to have all of my seams already sewn together on my bodice, and then I'm going to show you how we are going to put it in our bias binding.